A tragedy occurred in Las Vegas just last night when the largest mass shooting in modern history occurred, killing 58 individuals and wounding more than 500. In fact, the statistics now indicate that 515 people are injured, some of which are critically injured, which makes authorities believe that the death count might actually increase. Now, this mass shooting occurred during a country music festival. Country music star Jason Aldean was performing Sunday night at the end of a 3-day Route 91 Harvest Festival in front of a crowd of more than 22,000 people when the gunman opened fire from inside the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino across the street. He was believed to be on the 32nd floor. SWAT teams using explosives stormed the gunman's hotel room and found he had killed himself, authorities said. He had as many as 20 guns with him, including rifles. Now, so far, authorities are saying that he doesn't have any connection or any known connection to any international terrorist organization. In fact, his criminal record appears to be rather clean. Authorities said no connection has been found between the gunman and any international terrorist group. Donald Trump did release a tweet early this morning in regard to this tragedy and said the following: "My warmest condolences and sympathies to the victims and families of the terrible Las Vegas shooting. God bless you." He also ordered the flags to fly at half staff at all federal buildings and military installations until sunset Friday. He said the country must remain unified in the face of such shocking violence.
No word on whether he said there was terrific people on both sides or very fine people on both sides. Last time there was an act of domestic terrorism, he did say that. So you always have to wonder with Donald Trump. Is this an act of domestic terrorism? That's a good question. Usually terrorism requires some sort of political motive, which religious motives fall under that. So attack by Muslim radicals would qualify as an act of domestic terrorism, of course, like San Bernardino, which was very clear. They said that's why they were doing it. Also, things like the Dylann Roof attack in South Carolina, where he had a very clear political motive, it had a manifesto and explained it clearly terrorism, although not referred to as such about at least half the time, probably more than half the time it's not referred to as such, but it clearly is. This is not as clear. Not that there wasn't horrific deaths involved and civilian casualties, there was. We just have no idea what his motivation was. We don't know if it was political, religious, or just lost his mind, wanted glory, which unfortunately is what unifies almost all these mass shooters, whether they're terrorists or not. In their mind, they get to be famous and seek glory in their own different way.
Yeah, but as it stands right now, again, we know nothing about his motivations, and anyone who claims that they do is merely speculating. Authorities have said that they haven't found any motivation or any motive as of yet. Now, we do have video footage of what the scene was like, and it's incredibly graphic and difficult to watch. But I think that a case could be made that it's important to see what people go through during a mass shooting and how incredibly horrific and terrifying it is. So I wanted to give you guys that warning in case you do want to look away. And with that said, let's take a look at the first video. At this point, concert goers didn't realize what was going on. The music had clearly stopped. Later on, the music started playing again because the shooting or the sounds of the shooting had stopped. But as soon as the music started playing again, you hear the weapon again.
Get down. Get down.
So that sounds like a war zone, and that's exactly what we've turned the country into. Case of domestic terrorism are few, they're terrible, they're disastrous. Case of mass shootings are incredibly frequent. I'm going to get to graphic 3 here in a second to show you how frequent they are. And so we've armed almost everybody in the country. For every 100 people in America, there's 88.8 guns. So about 89 guns for every 100 people. Almost everyone has a weapon. Some people have many. This guy apparently had 18 to 20 in his room when they finally got into the room. He had over 30 weapons overall, and described by his brother as not particularly a gun guy. In America, apparently you have 30 weapons and they don't even consider you a gun guy. And so I can understand the crowd's confusion there. I would have been incredibly confused. Well, that sounds like gunfire, but is there really a fully automatic weapon being fired into a crowd in America? Unfortunately, the answer is often yes. So usually semi-automatic. In this case, it was fully automatic, and that's why it looked like a war zone. So let me give you the stats here on this. Mass shootings in 2016, there was 383 of them. So more mass shootings than days in the year. 15,000 people killed by gun violence in that year. This year, there's been 275 days in the year so far, and 273 mass shootings. 11,600 people killed by gun violence. So a little over one a day last year, a tiny bit under one a day this year. And what is a mass shooting? It is 4 people shot and or killed by a gunman, not including the gunman. So it's not a little shooting, it's not a domestic violence, it's not a one-off. It is a mass shooting, and we have them every single day in America.
I just got word that the death toll has now increased to 59. So 59 people were killed.
When are we going to do something? When are we going to do something? So you have the right wing, of course, immediately jumping out saying, "Don't do anything. Just give thoughts and prayers and meditation and yoga or whatever else that you want. But whatever you do, don't take political action." Because remember, they're all corrupt politicians that serve their private interests, that finance their campaigns, and the NRA is one of those private interests. They're a very important one. The NRA is funded by gun manufacturers, even though over 70% of NRA members say, for God's sake, let's do some background checks, especially on in the gun shows. Over 80% of gun owners say that. Over 93% of Americans say that. In a democracy, if you can't pass something that 93% of Americans agree with, then you might not have a democracy, and we don't. We have institutionalized corruption, and the gun manufacturers are an enormous part of that, and it is literally killing us. And you know what happened today? Gun manufacturers' stock prices went up today, so they must be thrilled at what's happening. They sold more guns because people are more panicked, which will lead to more gun homicides and more gun deaths, which will lead to higher prices for them. And when we have our so-called representatives, we ask them to act and actually solve this so we don't all get murdered all throughout the country. They go, nope, I'm not going to. I'm bought. And so gun manufacturers profit from you dying, so I'm going to support them and not you. And if someone you know died in a shooting like this, well, you know that it was your corrupt politician who rather take money from the NRA and gun manufacturers than actually do anything about this.
So let me just jump in real quick in response to the stock prices of these gun manufacturers going up. So oftentimes when these stories break, rightfully there is criticism in regard to the media's response and the politicians' response or lack thereof. And I think that the American public also needs to reflect on the way it responds and reacts to these types of shootings. So let's say in this situation, all of those people, I'm sure some of them were, but imagine all of them were armed and they decided to open fire in response to that shooter. That shooter's on the 32nd floor. What are you gonna do with your gun? I understand the panic. I had family there. I was certainly panicked, but is the right response to go out and purchase more guns? If you were there and you did have a gun, what would you do? How would you protect yourself?
Well, first of all, the minute you grab the gun, cops might think you're the shooter. Terrible idea. Terrible. Second of all, the guy's on the 32nd floor. What are you gonna do? Try to hit him on the 32nd floor and then accidentally kill people on the 31st floor, the 29th floor, etc.
People didn't even know where the gunshots were coming from. They had no idea. In fact, there were witnesses there who thought that there were multiple shooters. So no one really knew what was going on. It's panic, it's complete chaos. As I mentioned, more than 22,000 people went to that country music festival. I mean, it was horrifying. And adding more guns to that mix, I don't think would have made the situation any better.
I'm gonna go to graphics 2 and 6 next here because I want to give you context for how often this happens. And you know what the idiot NRA lackeys will say. And remember, they don't represent the majority of even NRA members. Over 70% of them say, give me some sort of federal background check, especially on gunshot. Now, the 1,000 excuses, don't talk about it the first day, just try to pray it away. And then, hey, Mandalay Bay didn't allow guns. So, there was a shooting anyway, you can't stop these. Are you kidding me? We're in an ocean of guns. You just step outside of Mandalay Bay. Did you know that in Las Vegas, toy guns are banned on the Strip because some tourists were worried about the stormtroopers that they take pictures with, the Star Wars guys? Their toy guns were freaking some people out. But real guns are allowed on the Strip and you can actually open carry. So toy guns are banned, but real guns are not. That is insane. That's insane. That's the country we have. But they say, no, but you weren't allowed to bring it to Mandalay Bay. It's fully automatic. Well, why do you think people want to stop those loopholes at the gun shows? You don't know what the hell they're selling. No. It's just they're supposed to be only selling semi-automatic, so it's illegal. So you don't even know. That's why we want the background checks. That's why most NRA members want the background checks. That's why we need some sort of process here so that criminals don't get their hands on guns and murder us day in, day out. So how bad is it? Let's go to graphic 2. Gun deaths per year in America, 33,000. Now, as you saw from the stat I gave you from 2016, about 15,000 of those in 2016 were homicides. And then there's a lot of suicides, and of course there's a ton of accidents as well. But 33,000 people, that's 10 9/11s. More than 10 9/11s. Okay, now how many people injured overall? On average between 2010 and 2014, 78,815 non-fatal gun injuries. So you add that to the 33,000 that were fatal, you're at 111,000 at least. That's a war, man. If we went to war and we had 33,000 people die and 78,000 get injured, that's way worse than any year of Iraq. So, but we're at war with ourselves. We've terrorized ourselves, and every time you go to do something about it, the right wing shouts, no, don't politicize, don't do anything. Make sure that all you do is sit there and think about it and never take any action. And they're corrupt Republican politicians, and yes, some Democratic politicians, but almost the entirety of the Republican Party is 100% corrupt on this issue. And they will profit from your death and not blink.
I want us to show video 2. It's another perspective of the scene of the shooting. So again, warning, it's graphic, but I wanted to make sure that we provide exactly what that environment was like. So again, if you don't want to see it, please look away. And if you do, let's go to break and show video number 2. We'll be right back.